Saturday, guys. Come on in, grab your drinks, your coffee, your water, your tea, whatever you are sipping on, and let's talk. It is Saturday, our day to get into God's word, to find out what's on his heart concerning you. And I prayerfully you are having an amazing start to your day whenever you view this. And while I'm on that, thank you for taking some time out of your day to spend with me. Prayerfully you will stay longer than the first minute or so to hear what's on God's heart concerning you. And that's important. If we say that we are God's and he is ours and we love him and we trust him and we live for him and we serve him, how can we live this life and not consider him? How can we live this life and not think or care about what he thinks or cares about what we do? And that doesn't necessarily mean we're doing something bad. Just in all things, consider God. That's going to be another Saturday, because that's something that, this is a revelation that he gave me with that is like, oh my God, it's so simple and defining it or explaining it. But as I was dialoguing with him about that, consider the one that is on the inside of you. Man, it just started opening up my eyes to really what it is that we do and who we are and our responsibility. We need to be considering him for everything we do, because he's on the inside of us. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today without getting on that topic, but we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So prayerfully you will stay with me a little longer. I promise I won't be long. At least I'm not going to try to be long. But it's going to be good. Why? Because it's God. And anything that God is in is good. Actually, it's great. And so I'm excited about today. We're going to talk about the exchange. The exchange. Now, we've all been to a store before where we have purchased something that we didn't really have the money to be buying, that we brought and we were kind of iffy, maybe, I don't know if I really want it or not. We brought it because we thought maybe it matched something that we had at home. And so we wanted to just get it and see, because we didn't have the pair of shoes or the pants or the shirt or the accessories on us when we went to purchase that thing. And so we purchased it only to find out it don't match. Only to find out, I spent $100 on this and I really need that $100 to pay this bill. I really don't need these shoes. I really don't need this jacket. I really don't need these pair of pants. So I'm going to take this back, right? Well, I was kind of I didn't really know if I wanted it or not. Now that I got it home and I got a chance to put it on with some other things, I realized I can do without it. So back to the store we go. There's nothing like being able to get your money back, which is called a refund for what you spent, whether it's $2 or $2,000. It's my money. I paid for this thing. I no longer want it. And so I want my money back. But in certain situations and in some stores, they don't allow refunds. They give you an exchange. And with this exchange, it's saying, hey, you're bringing our item back, right? Now you're stuck with having to purchase something in this store. You don't have to buy something right away, but you're not going to get your money back to take it and go buy something. Maybe you saw this thing cheaper at another store, right? I'm not going to give you your money back to go and invest in our competition. So I'm going to give you a voucher. I'm going to give you a card. I'm going to give you something that says this money is good with this store, but you can only spend it here. There's something that we have that you're stuck to having to buy, I guess, if you will, because you can't get your money back. Thank God for exchanges when we can't get a refund, right? Or exchanges when you lose your receipt. So you would have to be stuck with the item. In the same way, I want to talk about the exchange as believers. What is the exchange? Salvation. Salvation is the exchange that I am talking about. What is salvation? It's the process whereby God deposits within us a new nature that is from him and is therefore perfect. It's this new nature that he's given me that manifests inwardly first. And over time and over a process, it then begins to work itself out of me that you can see something on the inside, they used to say, is working on the outside. Oh, what a change in my life. It's funny when I do my satire days, old songs from when I was a little girl starts popping up. I didn't hear that one when I was writing this up, but there's another one according to the scripture that we're going to read. But something on the inside is happening. You can't see this thing that's turning, this thing that's twirling, this thing that's being renewed, this thing that's being revamped, this thing that's being washed, this thing that's turning. But over time, because it not only works in me, it begins to work through me. Now, each and every person that comes in contact with me or you, they can see. It's a clean slate that God gives us. It's a new beginning, a fresh start. But in this fresh start, in this new beginning, we must intentionally work to keep it clean. It's like a TV. This big TV that you've been wanting all this time. You finally got the money to purchase it. You purchase it, put it up on your wall and or on a TV stand or a dresser, whatever you put it on. Over time, without that TV moving, it's going to start forming dust around it. That you and I must be intentional about getting our Swiffer, our duster, our rag, and cleaning around the TV, cleaning the dresser, cleaning the TV stand, because something is forming just from its being. Just from it having a place to sit, a place to rest. Just from it being able to turn on and off without moving ever from that dresser, at least on its own, it begins to collect and form dust. As with many things in our homes, that we now have to be intentional about creating and carving out time to clean this thing. If not, our house is going to be a mess. If not, our house is going to be dusty. If not, our house is going to be dirty. If not, we're not going to want to invite guests over. Why? Because we don't want them to see how we're living in private. Why? Because it does not match what they think or what they see when we step out in public. Salvation is sort of the same thing. I have this dirty, dark, dusty, full of lint life that I am exchanging for something that God did over 2,000 years ago so that I can be new, so that I can be fresh, so that I can be clean, so that I can have this new start, so that I can begin again. But it is now my responsibility to dust the inner workings of my life, my thoughts, my actions, my intellect, everything that I've known up to this point, because I'm existing, because I am a being. I have a place here on this earth. My life is going to collect dust, if you will. Now I have to be intentional about keeping it clean, keeping it spotless. It's never going to be perfect. I don't care if you clean. I mean, nobody cleans every day. Well, at least I don't know anybody. That's just like OCD. But even if they are cleaning every day, chances are they're seeing something that doesn't meet or match or measure up to their idea of what clean is. So we're making this exchange with God for a price that he paid on the cross when he died for your and my sins, so that we can be washed, so that we can be new, so that we can be transformed. It is a process. It is a process. Salvation is the first step. And we'll get into how that has become a problem with many believers, because they cross over into salvation, but it stops there. And so it's the mixing, it's the toiling of the idea of this new thing that I stepped into without me even having full knowledge, which once again is a process, and me juggling what I've known all my life, which is dust, which is filth, which is dirty. It's like a hoarder. A hoarder, their mind is so intertwined and so in agreement with that look and with that feel and with that environment that even when someone comes up and cleans their home, eventually over time, it goes right back to how it used to be. Why? Because nothing changed in here. In this process of salvation, our mind is a critical tool in whether we stay clean or if we going back to being a junkie. Someone who is addicted, right? It's a mental thing that they battle with because they want to get clean. They don't want to live that life. They don't want to hurt the people that are helping them and the people that they love. They know that their life is totally different than it was before they got on this drug. But the mind, if it's not renewed, if it's not transformed, if it's not washed, if it's not continuing to be challenged and pushed and worked and exercised to go against what is familiar and what is comfortable, which is just resorting to this drug, eventually they will. So they have to go into places like homes or facilities that really helps to transition their mind, to keep them away from the drug. Now I got you away from the drug, but this tool, which is the mind, is going to be the key that is either going to keep you clean once you finish your 12 steps, once you finish your time in this facility, or it's going to lead you to go back. You know, there's a saying, the mind is a battlefield. Why? Because the mind is the place that is, do I do right or do I do wrong? Do I do good or do I do bad? It says this is evil, but it feels good. This probably is going to get me in trouble, but I'm willing to try. The battlefield is in our mind that keeps us in a place of choices. What do I do? What decision do I make? Oftentimes we know if I make this decision, which is bad, what's going to happen on the other end? So it's not as though our mind keeps us from the information that we need to make the right decision. It's just how strong is your mind and what are you doing to continuously work your mind to go against what is comfortable, to go against what is familiar, to go against what has been routine all of your life. It's a process. And you and I must be intentional for us to go from the process of salvation, which is accepting this new nature that God has given me, and working our way into transformation, which now this new nature that he's given me is not only on the inside, but he begins to work on the outside so others can see. Galatians 2:20. Galatians 2:20, it reads, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Now that sounds absolutely crazy if you're just reading that for the first time. I'm crucified with Christ and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith. What? And we used to sing a song with this when I was a little girl. I've been crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live. Yet not I, but the Christ that liveth in me. And the life that I now live, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loves me and gave himself for me. Who loves me, who loves me, who loves me and gave himself for me. It's amazing how these songs just been coming up in my spirit. Now this one I did think of while I was writing it. The first one I didn't. But What is this saying? I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. What is the exchange? It's saying when I accept salvation, the part of me that I know, which is my sinful nature, I'm exchanging for this new life. But once again, just like the store, this new life can only be, how can I say this? Gosh, just as in the store, this exchange can only be lived out and worked out through Christ. There is no exchange outside of him. Like he's given me a life, and now I don't want to say stuck, because we have choices to make. God gives us free will. So I'm not stuck. But thank you, Holy Spirit, if I want to spend this credit, I have to do it Christ's way, in his store. I have to buy his product with his tag on it, with his label on it, which means it has to be inside this store or another store with the same name. Thank you, Lord. So when I make this exchange, this credit that he's given me, I can only purchase, I don't want to say purchase, I can only use it in him. Buying this, I don't want to say buying. I try to be careful of my words because I know what I mean with what I say, but I don't want it to communicate or to come across and for me not to explain and then it gives someone the wrong idea. So it's just that. He's given us this credit, but I can only spend this credit, meaning a new life in him. Anything outside of that, guess what? It's a credit. It's available to me. There's money on my card. But if I don't cash it with him, I will resort back to having to go to another store and buy the same thing and spend money when I really already had the money as a credit. Oh, hopefully you got that. I feel like I'm mixing. Hopefully I'm not mixing you up. And so I'm exchanging. I'm getting this new nature. I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. It is not I, but Christ that lives in me. I've given him this exchange or made this exchange. The second part of that, it says, the life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. So I still have the same body, but because I made this trade or this exchange, I now live believing by faith that there's someone on the inside of me. I've given him my dirt. I've given him my filth. I've given him my experiences. I've given him my sins. I've given him all that I know that has got me to this point. And in exchange, I'm accepting and receiving him. Now he's on the inside of me. But the question is, now what? Salvation is the first step. It's the point by which we become knowledgeable and aware that I need change. I need transformation. And there's only one person that can do this. There's only one person that can help me. There's only one store that I can make this exchange in. But after I get this new nature, after I get this clean slate, after I get this new beginning, after I get this new 75-inch TV, what now? Because it's going to collect dust. It's going to do what it does because it's in an environment that does what it does. So now what? I have to know the man Jesus Christ and that he lives in me and to find out three things. What after salvation? There's three things I need to know. I need to find out. I need to find out who he is. Number two, I need to find out the life he lived. And number three, I need to find out the life he wants me to live. Why are these important? The first one, who he is. His identity helps bring clarity to my identity. Not the person that I've known all of these years, but the new person that I've made this exchange for. This clean slate. What does this clean slate mean? What and how am I supposed to build on this clean slate? Because if I'm going to do it the same way I've been doing it, then why make the exchange? I could keep my money and go somewhere else and buy what I want or what I need. So I've got this clean slate, this white page, if you will. There's one on the inside of me. Now I need to find out, who is he? Because when I find out who he is, as I read his word, as I go to church, as I pray, as I spend time before him, for us to grow in relationship, as I find out who he is, it strips the scales and the veil off of my eyes and who I used to be and how I used to live, and brings me into an awareness of who I'm supposed to be. Number 2, the life he lived. His example is our foundation. If we want to live like him, if we want to follow his footsteps, if he is our mentor, if he is our hero, if he is the one that we are looking at because he did it in such a great and powerful way, then I need to find out how he did it, because he's going to be the example to me for how I need to do it. And now we're in life, we say you don't need to follow the leader, or some leaders you don't need to follow. Or we say don't mimic their life. Christ's life is probably the only life that is safe to mimic. And I don't even call it mimic. I want to call it we're following after him. So who you follow after, you will become like, even when you're not trying to. They say birds of a feather flock together. Why? Because you're around that long enough, you'll start talking like it, you'll start acting like it, you'll start dressing like it, and don't even realize that you have made this exchange non-verbally with the people and the relationships and the environment and the community that you're a part of. It's called culture. Things just been, when I say culture, I'm not talking about black or white. Cultures are formed just by you being in a sphere, an environment with people that are like you or even unlike you. There's an example that comes to mind, but I will not say that. It's not bad. I just don't want to offend anybody. And so what you are around, you will become like. In this process of salvation, the after process, I should say, it is important for us to give him this tool so that we can continue to glean, continue to stay close, continue to draw close, continue to make time and spend time to be with him so that we can become like him. And the third thing, how he wants me to live my life. I need to find out, there's one on the inside of me now that I've made this exchange. What do you want to do? Why are you on the inside of me? First of all, that's weird. That's weird, right? When you think about it in a natural sense, it's somebody on the inside of me. But what do you want to do? You know, there's going back to what I said earlier, and I really need to do a Saturday on this. Considering the one that's on the inside of you. When we think about him being on the inside of me, what do you want? How do you want to live? A woman who is pregnant considers the baby that is on the inside of her. She should. She may not eat certain things. There's certain procedures she may not go through. There's certain things she will not do. Why? Because she's considering how it's going to impact, influence the one that is on the inside of her. But as believers, we have to know that there's one on the inside of us after we made this exchange that we should constantly be considering. What is going to make him happy? What is going to satisfy him or dissatisfy him? What is going to make him nauseous? What is going to please him? What is going to make him feel settled? Consider the one that is on the inside of you. So salvation, after salvation, we need to be finding out who he is, the life he lives, and how he wants me, you and I, to live. Now, this is a lifelong journey. This is a lifelong journey because up to this point, you have lived life the wrong way. And when I say wrong, I don't mean bad. You may say, oh, I don't do drugs. I've never smoked before. I never drunk. I don't party. I don't steal. I don't do all of those things. But the TV don't move and it still collects dust. We are all being influenced by something and someone. And if it's not God or a person who has a godly nature or a person who's walking and living after Christ, then it's somebody else who we are being influenced and encouraged by to do something just a different way. It's just a little off. It may not affect everything, but it's just a little off and it makes a difference. I've had a pinched nerve in my shoulder that actually got taped because I went to the chiropractor and they have me taped up to bring my shoulders back. This pinched nerve wakes me up in the middle of the night, or has been. It's been since last Tuesday, so a little bit longer than a week now. I go to get out the bed, use my arm, and it's like, oh, or my arm is stiff, or so now I can move everything, but there's certain places that I move my neck or will sit where I'm like, oh, it's cramping. And there's no cramp like one in your shoulder that you, like, how do I get it out? Because anyway I'm moving, I feel like I'm deformed. And so she's cracking and pushing and resetting, and because it's just slightly off to where it matters. I'm still living life. I'm still doing things as normal, but it matters because every few minutes I will do something that reminds me, oh, you got a pinched nerve. Don't get too relaxed. Oh, you got a pinched nerve. You better sit up. Oh, you got a pinched nerve. You better straighten your neck. Figure it out. I'm driving. I was driving with my arm out the car like this on Wednesday to church because I could not sit forward. And so in the same way, oftentimes we think salvation is enough, and it's not. It's the first step. It is an important step, but it is not the only step. Why? Because the pinched nerve, it matters. No, you may not be stealing. No, you may not be drinking, sleeping around, smoking, all of the things that we label as wrong. But are you forgiven? What about the things that people can't see? And so it matters. We must go from salvation, which is making this exchange, to now giving this tool, which is our mind, over to Christ so that he can walk us through this lifelong process of undoing what we've done, of clearing the clutter of our lives, of buffing us off, of cleaning the dust, the residue, things that we've put there, things we don't even know that is there. Why? Because it flows through my bloodline. My great grandmother was like this, and I never met her, but come to find out, she had a stinking attitude just like me. Well, not me. I'm just using that as an example. I mean, I can't have an attitude, but we ain't talking about me right now. We talk about you. And so we must continue to be intentional about our life and doing everything we can do possible to shift, to change, to maneuver out of the patterns and the routines and the ways that we have become so stuck to, glued to, and okay with. We have to be willing to do something. And guess what? This is daily. Daily. The Bible tells us to renew our minds daily. Why? Because every day we encounter something new. We engage something new that has the potential and some things the power to alter us back to a filthy, dirty, nasty state. We cannot be comfortable or settle with just salvation. Why, when you can have it all? And to have it all means that for the rest of our lives, the rest of my life, I will be experiencing Jesus Christ in ways that I have not known, because he's just that vast. He's just that great. He's just that big. We can never get enough of him where we feel like, this is what it was all about. Okay, I'm here now. I got this. What is another thing? Salvation is not a painless life. Salvation is not the beginning of a stress-free life. Some people get disappointed because they make the transition, they make the exchange, and they say, I still want to do those dirty things. I still want to do those nasty things. I did it even after I made this exchange. Oh, this don't work. You ever had a medication that you take? They gave me steroids and they gave me muscle relaxers. Neither one of them was working for 6 days. They said it's going to put me to sleep. I don't know if I'm just too strong or the medicine wasn't strong enough. I didn't go to sleep not one time from the muscle relaxers that they gave me. And so for me, I would have stopped taking it, but because it was a pack of 6 and 5 and 4 to 3, with one of the packs, I decided to go ahead and finish it out. But you ever take a medication that after a day or two, because it's not working the way you thought it would, you expected it to, you heard that it worked for somebody else, you're like, oh, I don't want to take it no more. When your system was so virgin to it, it was taking time to get used to it and then full of it to where now it can overflow or affect you, or you can feel the effects of the medication. This inner working, this inner process is a lifelong process. Every day we have to tell ourselves and remind ourselves what the word says. We have to remind ourselves that we're no longer who we used to be. So I don't do it that way any longer. I know people still see me that way because they may not have made the adjustments in their mind and in their eyes to see me as a different person. But that's why identity is so important, because once I know who I am, you can't tell me nothing else. And there's nothing that you can do that will change my mind about who I am in the process that I know that I've gone through and am continuing or are continually going through. I get tongue-tied sometimes and I get excited. Bring it down. There's nothing that you can tell me about where I am and where I'm going. Why? Because one, I've made up my mind that I'm not going back to where I used to be or how I used to do it. Number two, I've come too far. So I'm able to look back and see, maybe I may not be everything that I'm going to be or I want to be or that he's called me to be, but I sure am not who I used to be. And so that is promising, that is encouraging, that I look back and see, wow, I don't even think like that no more. I don't even want those same things anymore. I might as well continue to go forth. I might as well continue to go higher, because without it, I'm still living. I'm still breathing. I have not lost anything without getting high. I have not lost anything without clubbing. I have not lost anything without getting drunk to where I wake up in the morning and cannot remember. Because that's the life I used to live. Out there hanging with the dealers. That stuff don't even, like what? I look back at my old self and I'm like, really, Tisha? But I can see my transformation. I can see my change. I can see the shift. I can see the adjustment. Why? Because I am intentionally doing my job to make sure the dust of my life, the dust of my past stays off. The dust of my experiences, the dust of what I used to do and how I used to do it and what I used to like and what I hate and what people didn't know. I'm being intentional about washing myself, dusting myself off with the word so that my clean slate remains clean, so that the price that he paid so that we can make this exchange is not in vain. I encourage you to continue to pursue God. Salvation is vital. Salvation is key. Salvation is a beginning, but it is not enough. There is life beyond salvation. Salvation is a foundation. Build. Build. Build high, build big, build strong, build confidently, but build. Transform. Allow God to do the inner work in you. Don't only want it, go after it. Don't only want it, pursue it. Pursue the greater you that you have not been privy as of yet to even see, to even be introduced to. Why? Because we're forever learning ourselves the closer we get to God. I said this about 2 or 3 Saturdays ago. The closer we get to God, the clearer we see. And that's not only the clearer we see everybody else. The first thing is the clearer we see ourselves. What is in me that doesn't please him? What is in me that does please him? What is in me that he likes? What is in me that he does not like? What is in me that's going to cause me to be blinded once again? Or what is in me that's going to cause me to continue to see? So keep building, keep pursuing, keep growing, and keep going. Why? Because there's more for you. You've made the exchange. Now go ahead and transform. You've been given the credit. Now go ahead and live out the life with this new item called a new nature. But don't just get the clothes and put it in your closet. Wear it. Once you make an exchange for that store credit at a store and you get that shirt or whatever it is that you purchased, you don't leave it in your closet for too long. You find the opportunity to wear it. Why? Because it's worth it. Why? Because it's valuable. Why? Because you paid a price. We pay a price the same way Christ did. No, we were not crucified on the cross. But daily I'm crucifying my flesh to continue to live a life that is pleasing in the sight of God. So continue to shift, continue to develop, continue to grow, continue to go higher. God has so much for you. Until next Saturday, continue to live, love, laugh, and breathe. Jesus loves you, and I do too.